Israeli Special Operations Forces just eliminated 13 terrorists in a high-threat urban operation in Jenin. But how do they do it? How does Israel keep pulling these operations off? This was a textbook execution of what we call Sir Lachatz, or Pressure Cooker CQB, which is really one of the most advanced and aggressive close-quarters battles methodologies in the world, and it's specific for counterterrorism, and we developed it in Israel. And it's a method designed to force terrorists into a no-win scenario where they either surrender or they get eliminated. And on this episode, I'm going to break down exactly how the IDF execute these types of raids, how Pressure Cooker CQB works, and why it's one of the most effective counterterrorism CQB methodologies ever developed for special operations. Israel launched Operation Iron Wall a couple of days ago, and it's a counterterrorism operation targeting Hamas and Islamic Jihad militants in the Jenin refugee camp. The camp's a monster, I can tell you right now. It's no joke, extremely dangerous, and a monster terror foothold throughout Jenin. And so here's what we know so far. Here's what I'm hearing. 13 terrorists were eliminated, including 2 directly responsible for a deadly attack in Al-Funduq, which one high-value suspect was captured alive and is now being interrogated by Israeli intelligence. Weapons caches and IED factories seized and destroyed. So why Janine? It's been a terrorist hub for decades, since my day back in the 90s. And Hamas and Islamic Jihad use the urban layout to their advantage. A ton of narrow alleys, booby-trap buildings, and what we're finding now is more and more underground tunnels. And they embed themselves among civilians, and it makes traditional SWAT-style special operations, clearing operations, really, really dangerous. You can't move too slow, otherwise you're going to get shot to pieces. And if you move too quickly, you're going to get shot running into a room. So the IDF didn't just go in and clear like other conventional special operations units would do, or police SWAT teams would typically do like we see here. They use a method, or we use a method, that forces the enemy into a kill box where they have zero control over the fight. And this method is called Sir Lachatz, or Pressure Cooker CQB. And we invented it in Israel specifically for my unit and units very similar to my unit in the Border Patrol and in the Israeli police for the highest threat room clearing operations. And most people think of CQB as fast and dynamic. That's all that's out there. You look at all the podcasts, everybody's running in. This works when you're conducting ops against suspects that likely won't fire back. And that's the truth. That doesn't work against someone that you're going up against who's barricaded and heavily armed and is expecting you. So let me make that really clear. When you don't have the element of surprise, you're now walking into a trap. And after decades of counter-terror operations, Israel leaned into the sciences to develop a method that aligned with the types of operations we were facing, which meant the human body was going to respond under certain types of extreme stress when getting fired at. Again, this method was developed for that terrorist knows you're there and will be firing at you. And so Israel partnered with its top behavioral scientists to create a behavioral-based method of close-quarters CQB for their military and police special operations units. And that became known as Yeri Instinctivit, which is that behavioral-based shooting, as well as limited penetration room clearing. And they studied thousands of hours of actual shootouts and room entries in Israel and its combined operations. And here's what they found. When an operator is under extreme stress, their body dumps massive levels of epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, and adrenaline into that bloodstream. And no matter how much you trained, one, incited firing, or that slow method, or that dynamic room clearing, the chemicals would take over. And that led to, on the shooting side, squaring up on the threat immediately, and your body ends up facing the actual threat head on. They found that it was non-sighted. The brain wouldn't allow you to put anything in between your eye and what was trying to kill you. You would also go into what's called compulsive firing, and your brain clearly focuses on the threat, and you'd start dumping rounds without using your sights. This is known as threat-focused binocular dominance, and you lock onto the enemy and not your surroundings. The other thing was they found that you would end up firing from outside the threshold as opposed to making entry because it was a death sentence if you ran in. Your body just wouldn't allow you to push into a room if there's already shots that are coming out from the room. The Aaron Cohen Show is brought to you by the Cherries Deep Concealment Holster, same holster I trained Keanu on for the John Wick franchise. This thing runs below the waistband, or BWB, means it's never going to fall off you, and zero digging into your gut. Also fits all double stacked 9 and 40 Glocks, skeletal, adjustable clip, ambidextrous, and lightning fast draw with just a little bit of training. Hit the link down in the description to order one of these bad boys and finally carry with deep concealment and total comfort. And so you'd end up firing from outside the threshold as opposed to making entry and then firing. Your body just wouldn't allow you to run in because pressing in while taking any kind of fire was obviously or clearly a death sentence. There's no point on running in at that point. So Israel built an entire tactical doctrine around these findings and embraced the body's natural responses instead of fighting against it. And they developed what became known as Sir Lachatz, or Srika Bitroni, or Pressure Cooker CQB, which is a method that we found drastically increased the operational success rates while keeping the operators safer. And so I want to push into this a little bit more. This isn't just CQB. It's chess at gunpoint when you're talking about counterterrorism, specific high-threat operations. The operators control every move the terrorist makes by using this pressure cooker methodology. And once they're in the final room, it's over. So let's go even deeper. I want to break it down step by step now. How does pressure cooker CQB actually work in real-world operations? Here we go. First, you're sealing off the structure. That's pretty standard. The moment the team identifies the terrorist positions, they're going to immediately lock down all of the exits. We're going to have snipers and long guns, drones, armored units, full perimeter control. The enemy has nowhere to go. Keep in mind, we want to get this guy alive. Dead terrorists do not give you intel. Dead terrorists do not give you intel that prevents future terrorist attacks. So we want to get these guys alive. It's easy to kill them, but we want to get them alive. Second, we're applying suppressive fire. And so instead of making immediate entry, operators fire into the structure, forcing the enemy to retreat deeper inside. So we're using a methodical clearing method where we're firing from outside the thresholds as we're opening from outside those thresholds. And we're funneling the target. And so that method forces the enemy into a single confined space, which is usually at the final back room or corner, where their ability to maneuver is completely eliminated at that point. They can't set up an ambush, they can't escape, and there's really no counter attack that's effective. So finally, we're dictating the outcome. And at that point, the terrorist only has two options or choices. Either surrender, which happens in 9 out of 10 of the cases because they realize there's nowhere to go, or two, resist and get shot and get eliminated and get neutralized immediately. So essentially what this is it's limited penetration room clearing, which means we're using clear by fire from outside the threshold to force the terrorist into the farthest corner and room of the structure. And by controlling every step of the engagement, the Sir Lachatz, or the Pressure Cooker CQB, eliminates the unpredictability of traditional CQB. Let me say it again. The unpredictability of running in and not knowing what's there. There's no exposure to random angles and threats. There's no guessing. The fight is controlled from start to finish. I want to put up some footage of it so you can see what it looks like. Keep in mind that the angles are going to seem like the operators are exposed, or me and my instructors are exposed, but we're not. I'm going to show you what happens when you do immediate entry and I start shooting at these SWAT guys and they get hit. And then I'm going to start showing you what it looks like from the limb pen perspective. Go find him. Keep working. Keep working. There may be more. There may be more. Keep working. Take it in. Go. And I want to make it very clear that nothing ever enters the room that isn't around. The only thing that enters the room enters at 2,200 feet per second. The only thing exposed, regardless of the angles that you're seeing here, is a tiny bit of your lead eye, a tiny slice of your arm or shoulder, and maybe a slice of your foot. We don't switch hands when we're doing Pressure Cooker CQB. The reason why is because we wouldn't want anyone to come rescue us with their weak hand. Unless you have the amount of rounds on your weak side that you do on your strong side, all we do is take the weapon and shift it over to the other side when we're opening up a wall right. So we'll shift back and forth, but nothing enters the room except a round, which is at 2,400 feet per second. And again, the reason why is if rounds are coming out at you, you will not run into the room. I don't care who you are.
It's please, come out. Come out with your hands up. Come out with your hands up.
Pass your hands. Pass your hands.
Hands up. Hands up. Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. God. Shots fired. Stand by. Stand by. Push.
And so these counterterrorism methods isn't about reaction. It's about dominating the fight from the start. And the Pressure Cooker CQB, it's not really a tactic. It's a whole gunfighting methodology. And it's a shift in how we approached CQB. And it's about taking an uncontrollable situation and forcing it into a controlled, predictable outcome. So you don't have to worry about those angles, the door popping open, none of that. We're using clear by fire, using limb pen from outside the threshold. And that's why our units, Duvdevan, Yamas, particularly those counter-terror units, the Yamam, Seret, Matkal, have really, really high success rates with this urban warfare, especially in the last 14 months, but really for the last 30 years since we invented the methodology. It's built for hostage rescue, a high-threat terrorist warrant service, active shooter response, and eliminating heavily armed threats in those dense urban environments. It's fantastic. And it's how Israel's been taking out terrorists before they have a chance to act. Are you guys a fan of Israeli special operations? Grab a signed copy of my best-selling memoir, Brotherhood of Warriors. It's a memoir of my time serving in one of Israel's top special operations unit, the Elite Mistaravim unit of the IDF. This is the unit that infiltrates undercover dressed as Arabs to stop terrorists dead in their tracks. Hit the link down in the description. I've got a limited number of signed copies. Grab yourself one. It helps support the show. Trust me, you want to read this book. Appreciate you guys. So if you're law enforcement or SWAT and you're watching this episode and you want to learn more about Pressure Cooker CQB, hit the link down below. Shoot me a message. I've been training law enforcement in Pressure Cooker CQB and in limited penetration room clearing and behavioral-based tactical point shooting for over 20 years. I'm really good at boiling down the essence. I can whip one of these courses out in about 3 days now. Hit the link down in the description. Send me a message, and I'll get you guys out a quote. I also have an online version of limited penetration room clearing that you can get certified in. Hit the link down in the description for the online version as well. Been training law enforcement in these tactics for over 20 years. They work. It makes your tactics more predictable. It reduces risk of CQB when you're facing a committed threat. And the truth is, right now, we're living in a time, have a look at the New Orleans attack on Bourbon Street, where it's getting more and more predictable for law enforcement as we as we open up and see how badly things have gotten here in the United States, not to mention the DEI infestation that has rotted a ton of our agencies to the core. And as we start to gut all of that rot and get back to our core missions, which is public safety, officer safety, and being able to respond with the highest levels of capabilities, have a look at the Israeli methodology. You guys are seeing the same stuff go up and down the tactical food chain with running into rooms. You got to be getting bored of seeing that stuff. Have a look at how we do this in Israel. It's really smart, and it's behaviorally compliant, which means it's how your body is naturally going to respond. Learn from our mistakes. We've made a ton of them in Israel. October 7th, massive mistake. And when we screw up, look what happens. But now that Trump's in, now that we're getting refocused, we're getting recentered, have a look at the Israeli model. Hit the link down in the description. And I love to train law enforcement. It's my calling. It's my passion. I'm really, really good at it. And I've been serving as a reserve deputy sheriff for coming up on 17 years. I train SWAT. I work SWAT. I train patrol and active shooter response. And it's one of my favorite jobs in the world is training you guys out there. So hit me up down in the description and I'll get you out some more information. I want to thank you guys for watching this episode. A big win for the Israeli Special Operations community and this massive operation they just rolled out into Janine. I believe this is going to be the next front that's going to be opening up here. If they're smart, they won't. They don't want to see the West Bank, Ramallah, Bethlehem, Jenin get turned into Gaza. We're aggressive. You cross our borders and you rape our women and you kill 1,200 of our civilians, you're going to get thumped. And I'm not apologizing for it. I want to thank you guys for watching this one. I'm going to keep an eye on these West Bank operations as they continue to develop. If you have any questions, hit me down in the comments and let me know what you guys think of Pressure Cooker CQB. If you guys are law enforcement out there and you watch me, let me know if you think these types of tactics would fly with your agency and with your SWAT team. If you got a Chris Dorner high threat type of call out where you've got a cop killer on the loose who's already opened fire on you guys, would this Pressure Cooker CQB fly with your agency? Would your judges and your courts allow it? Would it be justified in your SOPs for an extremist type of response? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. It's debated, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. I'm Aaron Cohen. You're watching The Aaron Cohen Show, and I'll catch you guys soon on the next one.